a part of your brain is working right now listening to my words. When you spoke back to me, I know you were listening. You were intently listening. That's using your conscious side of your brain. When you're just whatever you're doing right now, you're using your conscious side of your brain. But you have an unconscious side of your brain as well that picks up on things that you're not necessarily aware of right now. You can tune me out, especially if there's music in the background or something, or anything getting your attention going somewhere else. You can tune me out, and then you're no longer listening with your conscious side of the brain. But the thing is your unconscious side is picking things up. As long as it's coming in here, or even through your visual, whatever, you're catching those things whether you realize it or not. When we say, man, I can't remember anything, that's this side. This side forgets a lot of things, but this side doesn't forget. It doesn't. Think about when you lost your keys or something. You look, man, I can't remember where I put them. And then when you finally run into them, oh, I do remember where I put them. They were right there. I know how they got there. So, adding to that, so when you talk about witchcraft, talk about satanic wisdom, Satan knows that when you add music and rhythm, you can bypass this and deliver it right to here. And here's the thing. So I know we all have heard music that we enjoy to get your foot tapping, whatever, not necessarily gospel music, but just worldly music, it gets you kind of moving, you don't even realize it. And I'm sure we all have songs that, man, I like that song. I don't either I don't like the lyrics, or I don't even know what the lyrics are. There's plenty of songs I'm like, I don't even know what that idiot's saying, but I kind of like the way it sounds. The thing is Satan knows how that works. And there's power in those words. He knows that he can get your mind not even paying attention with your conscious side, and it feeds right into here. He can feed you all kinds of stuff. Even the lyrics, like I say, even if you're not even consciously paying attention, and especially when they're repeated over and over and over, especially if you like a song and you're going to listen to it again and listen to it again, you're feeding that, whether you know it or not. It goes into this side. And you might say, well, that's not that big a deal. I'm not always thinking with that side of the brain. But the problem is when you go to sleep at night, this stuff eases on over here and gets on this side, whether you know it or not. Satan knows that. That's satanic wisdom, brothers and sisters. That's not something a man came up with. Satan knew that. Satan's the one that teaches that, and it's part of witchcraft. It's feeding you that stuff, thinking you're not paying attention, thinking it's not having an effect. But every time you listen to one of these songs, or it's other things too, movies and such, but they get into here, and it doesn't even have to be understandable to your ear. This is where you absolutely know it's satanic. You've probably heard there are certain songs, if you listen to them backwards, you might hear something on the other side. But that happens more than you think. That everybody knows that Queen song, Another One Bites the Dust? Yeah, you know it. Be like Brother Ron. He said, you know the song. Don't act like you don't know it. But when you flip that one backwards, when you listen to it backwards, it says, it's fun to smoke marijuana. And it's just as audible as it could be. A man can't come up with that. You understand? A man can't do that. But you can listen to that song enough times. You keep repeating it. You keep letting it into your mind. It keeps coming over here. And even that reverse does the same thing. And one day that thing might come on the radio while you're going down the road, and all of a sudden you just have this odd urge that you've never had before. And that's realistic. This isn't fairy tales. It's witchcraft, and I promise you that's how this thing works. There's it's darker than that. That's one of the lighter things. There's one you ever heard of the guy? Jay-Z is his name. There's Jay-Z and Beyonce, whatever. But Jay-Z's rapper or whatever. One of his songs, they played it backwards. Again, a man can't come up with this. It says 666, murder Jesus. That is satanic. It's nothing other than satanic. But anyway, you can listen to those things. They come backwards and forwards, and anyway. So I just want you to grasp that concept. when it comes with repetition and whether you're listening or not to the lyrics, they're making it to this side over here that you're not even paying attention. And when you sleep, it comes over here, especially with the more and more it's repeated. That's another way spells they work. It's repetition. All right, let's go to the next slide. What in the world is that? No, that's it. So, I showed you last time we talked some about that eye at the top of the pyramid and how it has many different meanings. But if it's that eye of enlightenment. It's the eye of, this is specifically the eye of Horus. This is Horus here. You always see, this is all, ancient Egyptian god. You always see him from one side showing the one eye. That's why it's one eye. This is the eye of Horus. But I don't care if you call it the eye of Horus, the eye of Osiris, or Nimrod. It's the eye of Lucifer is what it is. And some consider it specifically the eye of Lucifer, but that's what it is. The other things are just, if you're worshiping an idol, you're worshiping Satan. That's very simple. I mean, some of them will outright tell you they're worshiping Lucifer, but when you see that, it's the eye of Lucifer is what it is. This is satanic. And you see people drawing attention, they'll hide one of their eyes. That's for the eye of Horus, it's the eye of Lucifer. It's satanic. They'll draw attention to one eye, or you see this thing right here. If they're doing it like that, I promise you they're not saying, hey, everything's A-OK. And don't believe the idiocy saying that's got something to do with white supremacy. That's the dumbest thing in the world. It's not the KKK. Look at it in her hand if you look at it like this. 6, 6, 6. So they're pointing to one eye, which is representing this, and the 666. They're letting you know who they're working for, and they're not ignorant of it. I can show you, we could be here for hours and hours, and I could show you slide after slide of this, and it's not just singers, and it's not just celebrities on your television. It's everything you can think of: music, entertainment, sports, the people and places of influence, because that's what Satan wants, is influence over you. Does that make some of you sad that Emma Watson's up there? That's Hermione. If you don't know, that's good. Good for you. All right, let's go to the next one. It's really hard to find pictures of these people that's appropriate enough to put on a projector in church, by the way. All right, that's Madonna showing her pyramid with the eye at the top. And you'll notice they put the eye, whether they're covering their eye. I mean, this is just as obvious as could be. This is Katy Perry, if you didn't know who Katy Perry is. And they'll wear the eye. And when you start seeing these things, you'll see it everywhere. I've seen, my daughter was watching a cartoon one day, and one of the people on the show is on a cartoon having the eye on them. And she's just an outright devil. That's Lady Gaga, if you don't know. She's got I showed you last time that lightning bolt, that is a satanic symbol. That is a symbol for Satan. And notice that when she covers one eye to do the one eye symbolism, you can see she made an L. She's outright Luciferian. She'll tell you. She's Luciferian. She worships Lucifer. I've seen her in an interview. She said something. She said, like, I swear to Lucifer. And then after that, she was carrying on with some stupid story she was speaking of, and the interviewer said, good Lord. Just something. And when he said that, she threw that hand up just like that, and you could see her face was irritated. They hate Jesus more than anything in the world. They hate Jesus. So all he had to say was, good Lord, at her story, and she did this. She was just booming, this is my Lord, basically what she's saying. Don't speak to me about Jesus. And it's so much darker than anything I would want to even bring out. But I mean, this is, You know, I told you before, Katy Perry, she's one. She was a Christian. She was raised Christian. Her parents are Christian. Her dad will still tell you today, please pray for my daughter. But she said multiple times that I sold my soul to the devil. I couldn't get in the music industry otherwise, but I sold my soul to Satan. Or I sold my soul to the devil. She said multiple times I've seen her say that. And it's, you know, he puts them in this place of influence and then uses them to influence everybody. And it's so sad because they, you know, they're made these offers. Like, you want to be rich and famous, this is the path you take. And they know what they're doing as far as who they're serving. They understand it's a spiritual thing, that none of them are ignorant of that. But, you know, so many of them it costs. They don't realize what it costs. Sometimes it costs them, you know, family members. Sometimes it costs them people they love. Anyway, it's just dark, dark stuff. You know, they pay a heavy price for fame, and it's so sad. The Word of God says, what good is it to have the whole world lose your soul? Let's go to the next slide. There's just a whole lot more of them. But it just reminds me of this verse in Philippians 3. It says, "For many walk, of whom I have told you often, and I tell you even now weeping, they're enemies of the cross of Christ, whose end is destruction, whose God is their belly." That's all they just want. Give me fame, give me money, at whatever cost. And it says, "Whose glory is in their shame, they mind earthly things." And like I said, we could do slide after slide after slide for hours, and I can still bring you more that you haven't seen yet. But they know who they're serving, brothers and sisters. It's not like there's this tiny group of elite people who, no, there's just about anybody you can think of that's been in front of you on a television screen, that's been over the radio, and some way or another, they know who they're serving. Let's go to the next slide. I wanted to show you this. So, this is the Creative Arts Agency in Los Angeles. Can you tell where they get inspiration from? And, you know, I want to point out that, you know, this is like the big time. This is where, you know, all these people, they're represented by the Creative Arts Agency. This is all your big names. And it's not just movies. It's not just music. Like I said, it's sports. All the people who have all the influence, these guys are representing them. And this is, you know, how they get some direction and all that. And if you can't see, obviously, they made this courtyard with that eye in it, the eye of Horus, another eye of Horus. These are eyes, but they're also part of an owl. It's still evil. It's a whole other thing. I just don't want to get into it right now. But you see, they built them into the triangles. This isn't just a little thing to them, brothers. This is their life. This is their religion. This is their belief. They serve Satan. And I want you to realize how vast that is, what that's representing, who all they have influence over. You know, it's entertainment. It's all those things that have a place in your mind when it comes through a screen, whether it don't matter if it's the internet, the television, the radio. This is what they're into. They're not worshiping Jesus. And they're not there to help you in any way. They're there to be tools of Satan to influence your life. You know, there's lyrics and songs, and it's not just the super duper. You know, I was listening to a man's testimony. He was in jail, and he was talking about a specific song that he was just listening to, and it helped him because he was a gangster or whatever. And there's someone he was thinking about killing, but he couldn't really do it. And then he kept listening to this one specific song, this rap song that talked about murder and killing cops, killing that. And it got into him enough. He said, it pushed me over the edge. I was able to do it then. And that was on the conscious level. But there's, like I said, they speak to you on a different level. And it's not just, songs that make you want to kill somebody. But, how many, whether it be country songs or every genre of songs, so many of them, talk about fornication, adultery, and What you name it, that the pastor wrote off the other day, these works of the flesh, you name it, they're going to speak it into your mind. That's what they do. And very much with music is what I'm kind of focusing on tonight. And they bring it, whether you're listening to it consciously or not. That's what they're bringing into you, and that's what you're feeding yourself. So it's just why I'm here to expose that, just in case you didn't know. It's all satanic, and it's Satan trying to penetrate your mind and cause you to do things that you ought not do, to separate you from God. That's all he wants. If he could take glory from God or point you in a different direction, he's happy. He doesn't care if you say, I love Satan. He just wants you not to love God or to sin against God, to put something between you and God. All right, let's keep going. It's Mr. Kanye West. So he's showing his little triangle, and Tom Cruise just happens to be in this picture. So just so you know where he's coming from, he knows who he's worshiping. He knows where he's coming from. Let's go to the next slide. Now, so this surprised me. I don't know if you heard last year. I never would have even heard of Kanye West, but last year, I guess he was in the news a lot because he'd go to the White House. He would say, I like Donald Trump. He'd wear his red hat and made everybody aggravated and all that stuff. But well, here we go. So let's talk about that. So he allegedly said, oh, praise God, I'm a Christian now. I'm living for Jesus. And he came out with this new album called Sunday Service or something like that. Just ludicrous. I know one of the songs on that album is about Chick-fil-A, if you're wondering how spiritual it was. Does anybody notice anything about that? This is where, so he came to do like a concert at Lakewood Church. You know, that's Joel Osteen, and in case you don't know. And this is his church. Yeah, I wasn't even looking for that. But what are the chances that he would have that eye as the center point of focus on his stage or pulpit or whatever you want to call it? This one is just for free. I mean, this is where Kanye came and did his Sunday service concert or whatever at Lakewood Church. I just thought that was interesting. It makes me think Mr. Osteen he knows exactly what he's doing. I have no doubt about it. I don't think that man's leading anybody to Jesus. That one was just free. Go to the next slide. So this was from Kanye's Sunday service. Supposed to be worshiping Jesus in Lakewood Church. And look at what they made on the... And so this is the first thing I found at this thing. I said, oh my goodness, they made the eye of Horus in the church. The eye of Lucifer is what that is. And so this is Kanye in the middle, and all his people around him doing their concert. And I was like, good night. They're all wearing black and hoods and all this dark stuff, supposed to be calling themselves praising Jesus. You know, and I thought this was Kanye that did this. This is just the stage at that church. Always. Tell me Satan doesn't have a hand in that. I'm telling you, they know what's going on. This isn't... Anyway, let's go to the next slide. It's just here's another angle of that Sunday service. I think it's clear as day what you got going on there. Let's look at the next slide too, from the same thing. So here's that view again. Here's him praising Jesus with the 666 and the eye of Horus. And here's another one covering up an eye, and here's doing the devil horns. And if you think that's not the devil horns or goat horns or whatever you want to call it, it's satanic. And if they tell you otherwise, they're lying. If you see Barack Obama doing this, he's done this a lot too. But if you see him doing this, all that means I love you. Is like, when I do it to my wife and kids, it means I love you. When you do it, you're being a devil. And they're just letting everybody else know that they're, like I say, it's the esoteric kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I know what I'm doing. If I'm Barack Obama doing this, I know what I'm doing. I'm telling you all who I am about, who I worship. And of course they'll lie to you. You know, I saw I was looking at some of these things, and there was I don't know her name because she's a famous singer from either the UK or Australia. So I didn't know her name. But she was showing pictures from where she had sacrificed a chicken. I mean, she just, in this room in her house, made this huge mess. Talking about sacrificing a chicken to Satan or whatever. And the Church of Satan, this is on Twitter, verified Church of Satan, gets on there and they say, we don't do that. This got nothing to do with us. I'm thinking, the Church of Satan, Jesus said Satan, when he speaks, his native tongue is lies. He's the father of lies. That's all he knows how to do is lie. So when the Church of Satan tells me that's not what we do, like, okay, so whatever you say, I'm going to do the opposite. That's kind of how, when the government tells me to do something. Whatever you say, I'm going to do the opposite. Google's the same way these days. You Google something, they're going to tell you the opposite of what's true now. In case you didn't know. All right, you can move. Next one, yeah, thank you. And I don't want to pick on certain people. That's not really what I'm about. But I'm trying to let you understand that it's so vast. And it's not one or two people. Which is why I'm bringing out individuals so you know. If you don't know who Nicki Minaj is, this is Nicki Minaj. She's a singer of some sort, rap or whatever she does. The thing about her is she has these multiple alter egos, is what she calls them. But it's absolute demon possession. There's like one specific one. She said, you know, it's a male. She said his name is Roman. You know, she was doing an interview. She said he was born a few months ago. He was born out of rage, and he says things that I wouldn't normally say, and this and that. But she allows these things to possess her. She said, I can't get rid of him. And she says that sincerely. There's nothing I could do about it. But, you know, when she's doing interviews or something like that, these people, they think it's the cutest thing in the world. They're like, show us Roman. And she'll close her eyes and she'll say, come. And then open her eyes. And she is a totally different person. This poor woman, she's no different than the one that when Jesus said, tell me your name, devil. And he said, we're legion, for we're many. That is what she is, and it's so sad. But they allow that to happen. They pay a price. But when you listen to any of their garbage, I'm certain none of you do that. But a lot of this is for the young people, more than anything. To know all the junk that's coming over the radio, it's from people like this, who are literally demon-possessed, letting Satan, or not Satan specifically, because there's a multitude of devils, but letting the devil control them. Let's go to the next slide. Beyonce, I mentioned her earlier. We've all at least heard of her probably. Here she's clearly doing her triangle there, showing you who she's about, and then the eye of Lucifer. You can call it the eye of Horus or eye of whatever you want. It's the eye of Lucifer. I don't care. It's all going to go back to them. So when she speaks of, she'll tell you, she said, I have talent, I can sing and all these things. She said, but when I get on stage, there's things I do I cannot do no matter how hard I practice, whether it be the dancing or certain music or whatever. She said, I just can't do it. She has an alter ego called Sasha Fierce. And she literally, before she'll go on stage, she puts her hands up. Like we worship God, she puts her hands up, and she said, I can feel it enter me. And when I go out, I'm no longer me, I'm Sasha Fierce. Another, allowing a devil to come in them so they can do a performance. And if you think that performance or that music or anything she's doing is going to benefit you, you're completely out of your mind. Let's go to the next one. So this is from Jimmy Page. I think we've all heard of Led Zeppelin. So this is Jimmy Page. He said, I've employed Crowley's system, and I'll tell you about Crowley in a minute if you've never heard of him. I've employed his system in my own day-to-day life, and that's the way the big names are made these days. And, just like I said, this is not uncommon. This is the norm for all those that have this influence. He said, that's just the way the big names are made these days. We employed Crowley's system, and this is the things I'm telling you about, the witchcraft of bringing in devils and all these things. Making contact with demons and spirits. They know what they're doing. It's not news to them when you tell them, you know you're dealing with devils. It's like, I know. That's how I'm so famous. That's how, that's how I do my thing. Let's go to the next. Said Jimmy spent his days in his suite with the shades drawn and the candles lit. He spent his days and nights wide awake holding his guitar, waiting for something to come through. That's, the unlearned person, or if you're ignorant of these things, you think, man, these people with all this talent, they're just really good at writing songs, and they're just got a talent. Like, no, they're literally waiting on demons to help them. Let's go to the next slide. And this is just something just to let you know I'm not lying to you. Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page, disciple of Aleister Crowley. That's Aleister Crowley there. I'll show you more of him in a minute. If you can't tell, that is the triangle with the eye in it, 666. Not hiding anything. Disciple of Aleister Crowley. So let's go to the next slide. I think it's.
I saw a picture of Barack Obama in a shirt, T-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Picture of his name and his.
Mm-hmm.
He was working out and he had that shirt on.
They say that one's fake, but you can't know anything, can you?
Oh no, it has his name on it.
Can't believe. So this is Mr. Crowley, if you've never heard of him. His name is Edward Alexander Crowley. He changed his name to Aleister Crowley because through whatever I don't know if it's the gematria or whatever they call it, the numbers, this name adds up to 666, which is why he changed his name. This is what he called himself. I am the Beast 666. That's what he claimed to be. He's known as, a lot of people who know about him, they consider him the most evil man in the 20th century. And that is that's a tough one to claim there. I mean, come on. Hitler's bottom of the barrel, and you got, Pol Pot, Stalin. I mean, my goodness. He didn't kill as many people as communism did, but he did. He's the one who taught a lot of this stuff to these people I'm telling you about. That was Jimmy Page who said, I employ Crowley's things that he taught us, and all the big names do this. He's been known to boast that he killed 150 young men in 1 year. And this is not just murder. It's, no. He ritual sacrifice, and darker than I want to talk about in here. So anyway, Crowley, who many musical artists follow, he's been dead for a while though, about 50, 60, 70. He died about 50 years ago, just so you know. So who many musical artists follow, he said, I am the snake that giveth knowledge and delight and bring glory and stir the hearts of men with drunkenness. To worship me, take wine and strange drinks, things like heroin and alcohol may be and should be used for the purpose of worshiping, that is, entering into communion with the snake that giveth knowledge and the delight and bright glory. It doesn't sound very Christ-like. There's so much material in him. But it's like I said, so much of this is so dark, I don't even want to know most of it. So this just barely even scratches the surface on who this guy is. But I just want you to know he's pure evil, and he is the one so many of these people learn from. So let's go to the next slide. Most of you heard of Bob Dylan before. He's done all kinds of interviews, but in this one, he said, I didn't even understand some of the lyrics that I was writing. These are, songs that were huge hits that were gibberish to most people. They're ridiculous. But they're in here if you ever listen to them. He said, I've written songs, and I've heard multiple people say this. I wrote songs in 5 minutes, complete music, lyrics, everything. And these are big hits that end up, lasting decades. And he said they were magically written. He said, I couldn't write stuff like this in my right mind, he meant. Couldn't write it if I tried, because it was from Satan. And I told you before, he, more or less, he didn't use the specific words, but kind of like Katy Perry, absolutely sold himself to the devil. And he, at this age, in his older years, still performing, he said, I'm holding up my end of the bargain. That's what he said. So let's go to the next slide. I told you about Carlos Santana last time, just to remind you of another one of these that did the witchcraft of chanting and meditating and all these things. You remember I told you he brought up this entity called Metatron, which is a devil that called itself Metatron, and it would come and speak to him different things, what he needed to do, or lyrics, or whatever it might be. Let's go to the next slide. Coolio. I know y'all big fans of Coolio. I think Sister Faith's a big fan of Coolio. I didn't plan on saying that. It just happened. I saw you.
Thank goodness it was her.
I'll get you next. I got more. I'm bringing up these different ones to let you know it's not few and far between. This is the norm. Coolio was talking about one of his biggest hits. It was called Gangsta's Paradise. I like the Amish Paradise version myself. Way better. But he was being interviewed, and he said it was an entity. He said that song wrote itself. And he said it was like this. And he threw his eyes up like this. He said, I wrote it just like that. And again, in about 5 minutes, the whole song was written. It was the biggest hit he ever had. So it's not just talent these people have. I'm not saying that they don't have any talent at all. But the ones with the most influence, what they're giving you did not come from Jesus. It did not come from their own head. It came from the pit of hell. Let's go to the next slide. Here's another one. I'm not super familiar with this guy, Jim Morrison from The Doors. It said he was opening himself up to be used and abused by any spiritual entity that happened to come along. He said the result might have been some amazing inspirations, but also tragically restless and a misdirected life. Let's go to the next slide. I think it's, oh, I thought it was going to be more of him. Either way. Y'all ever heard of the Beatles? Y'all reckon they're as pure as gold? Right, and that was the point. That was what Crawley taught, is to, you get high on these drugs that take you to a different place, and those drugs open you up to the spiritual realm. Right. Y'all see? Do y'all recognize that face? Is that Donald Trump?
Is it E.T.?
No. This is Aleister Crowley. This is 20 years after he died. They're putting him on the face of their album. But just so you know where they're coming from. Let's go to the next slide. He's not a singer. I'm sure you've never heard of this guy. This guy in the 70s his name was John Todd. He was a high-level executive, like a record producer, whatever he would be, vice president of whatever record company. But all into witchcraft, and he converted to Christianity, and that's the best place to have a lot of these things, is, whether it be witchcraft or the Freemasonry stuff I told you about. It's always the guys that are saved out of it, and they say, let me show you what that was about. It was satanic. He's one of them. So he was, like I said, they produced records in the music industry. And man, his testimony was kind of jarring to listen to what he said. And he said what went on and where he was and the record label that he worked for. And he said it was the same thing with all of them. It wasn't just them. It was the way they did business. All right? They cut what you call the master tape. He said this was in the 70s. It was like, he said it was about this big, and it kind of looked like a big 8-track or something like that. But that's what they recorded on. That was the master, and that's what you took from that to make your records, your whatever, CDs, tapes, whatever it would be. But you had one master that they recorded on, that they did the original cut. He said they would take that master during a full moon, and he said their place where their studio was, and he said all the studios were like this. They would have a big room somewhere in there that was a temple, a witchcraft temple. And they'd go in there, they'd place that thing in the middle of a pentagram with a circle around it, and 13 witches and wizards would come around. This is not Harry Potter, this is witchcraft. And they know what they're doing works, and they know it's satanic. They know what they're doing. 13 witches and wizards would get around this thing. They put it in the middle of that pentagram. This is the master tape after they cut it. And just like in the morning when I pray to God that He'd watch over my family and you know, that He would protect them and let His angels be around and protect them, they do a similar thing, but they call on a devil to go, and they ask it to send a devil. They consider themselves, they're calling on a major entity, and they're asking it for every record, every tape, whatever it was that would go out from that master copy, that a devil would go with it, and then it would do its work. Just like we pray over something, they would do their satanic prayer over it. I'm trying to get this across to you, especially the young people. That was in the 70s, but I promise you it has not changed. You might not be listening to it on a CD or a record. It doesn't matter if it's coming over the waves. You know, the enemy is the prince of the power of the air. You know, everything comes back. You know, I said the power of the tongue. Everything is just, in its simplest form, vibrations of some sort. And and he's a master of those things and how to get into your head. But you should understand, he said this wasn't just something we did. He said all the record companies were doing the exact same thing. They would take the master to the temple, and they would do this ceremony with 13 witches and wizards to make sure devils would go out with every copy that would go. And they do the same thing with, I know you don't have witchcraft books in your house, I'm certain of it, but they do the same thing. If there was a book of spells or whatever kind of witchcraft book, they do the exact same thing. And you can have these things in your home, and that thing's got a devil with it, and it came with it, and it stays with it. Let's go to the next slide. So that's why I'm here to tell you to be sober. I'm here to tell you what's going on, tell you how Satan's coming. He wants to get in here, and he will get in there whether you know, if you allow these doors to be open. And while I'm thinking about it, when I tell you these ones that they go into another place and they let a demon possess them and they'll write a song without even looking at it. The same thing happens in Hollywood. I listened to a man, same thing. He had the testimony about writing a script for a movie. Same thing. Let a devil possess him so he can write the script. So it's not like I'm picking on music. Tonight I'm focusing on music because there's so much of it I can point to. But I just want you to be sober and vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking who he may devour. And when we let ourselves open to those things, that's what he's looking for. So he said, resist, steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world. Let's go to the next slide. Finally, my brethren, Ephesians 6, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might, and put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil, the schemes of the devil, knowing what's coming. Knowing your enemy is huge. Just knowing how he's coming at you. So you can just block those things. But he said, put on the armor of God. He said, just like I'm telling you tonight, we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. That's those things that want to get into your mind, get into your soul, your spirit rather. He said, wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that you might be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth. I thank God for truth. Praise God. We stand on a rock of truth. I thank God for the light of His Word. And having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. And above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith you shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. Praise God. We have to put on the whole armor of God, and these are the last days. You can see all around. We were just talking a little bit on the way to church, and I just said, Sarah Beth, I'm so sorry for this. The days you're growing up, it's so dark. There's always been darkness, but is it not getting clearer and clearer how dark it is, and how much longer could it possibly go? I'm certain there's, still just scratching the surface of these things, and even specifically in the music and all these things, but just, especially young people, know what is being attacking in your mind with, you might think, man, I like these songs, I want to listen to them over and over and over. You might not even know what it's saying, but these things, they're tools of Satan to get into your mind, and that's what they're for. Carlos Santana?
The one you spoke about him last time.
Mm-hmm.
When I went over to the barbecue restaurant in Robertsville, Buster's, they had a picture of him over by the window, and I recognized it from your slide. It was like a concert picture.
Mm-hmm.
But, it didn't dawn on me till just now. That's what it was.
Well, I think this is the end. I don't think I got any more. Told you. Praise God. Be sober and vigilant, brothers and sisters. The enemy wants to destroy you in any way he can, and he has a lot of avenues. I've only pointed you to a couple little ones. All right, may the Lord bless you.
Before Brother Kenny got started, Sister Kim Herndon sent a text to Faith, and four saints there, Brother Hefner's, have come down with the COVID, and I don't know their condition, but Sister Kim and Brother Brad's going to go get tested tomorrow. They're feeling the symptoms, and so just remember that assembly and prayer, and we'll pray for them before we leave. Okay. Yeah, Brother Isaac tested positive, and so she tested negative, but Brother Isaac tested positive. Just go ahead. Okay. Well, I'd like for us all to bind together. Anyone else have a need?
sat here many, many nights telling you how much she trust the Lord. Okay? And she told me before she passed, you're going to see a miracle, son. And I've seen it. I've seen them, but there's greater ones. There's greater ones coming. And I trust you that we're going to see that. I want us to whatever we do every day when you wake up, before you go to bed, lay your hands on your loved one and ask God to do something through them, through your prayer, whatever. And it's going to affect. You'll see it. It's going to start affecting. It's got to. I mean, we're in the day and I got to quit. I'm telling you, I'm getting excited, brother. This is really, really, really stirring it's really stirring my soul more than I have ever been stirred in my life for Jesus Christ and what He's fixing to do. It's fixing to be some terrible things take place, but I'm stirred in my soul for the saints. We're the ones that's going to hold them up. We're the ones. And I want the young people to know that we are praying as hard as we can pray. I know we are. That inner man is screaming out, Lord, we need you. Hallelujah. Glory to you.
was already off, I think.
Yeah, I turned it off and then, or on again and then off again.